All right, so I will be sharing about my AI image generation explorations. And I just want to start off with a why and also the goals that I set up for myself for this exploration. We wanted to look at different AI tools to see which ones could create an on-brand imagery for us, especially to use in newsletters and blog posts, just to make that process a little bit faster and easier, especially for our designers. So some goals I want to focus on, obviously generate images that align with the brand imagery, see which AI tools are capable of what, some prompt strategies, some potential agent solutions, and also point out any pain points of pros and cons with each of these tools. The tools that I surveyed was Copilot, Gemini, Pomelio, and ChatGPT. You probably know Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, large language models, but Pomelio is a tool that comes from Google Labs, and it focuses on creating campaigns that you can edit and use generation for. So it's for social media particularly. I built an agent for each of them when possible. And so first I provided just like a brief description about, I'm using this for making a brand guideline and like, we want to make illustrations for newsletters, blah, blah, blah. But then I provided a deeper instructions, which I used Perplexity to help me generate a prompt for. It walks through the whole design plan, ask for different specifics, hold it to reference all the brand and homologes, and then to also set it up that when I prompt to provide me with like a design brief of what it's going to do first before just generating an image, which I thought was really helpful because it allowed me to reference it and be like, oh, I want you to change this before just generating an image. And then adding sources to the agent. So I supplied it with the website, our brand guidelines, and images that Theo has designed that are on brand. So things that I've used on LinkedIn or illustrations on our website, things like that. I use one prompt for all of them just to test as a control. And my question here was, can you please create a simple illustration that can represent mapping UI in digital products? I would like to use this image in a blog post. Here's just some of the results. So with Copilot, it provided a great like illustration base, which I enjoyed. But then once I asked for that background gradient that, Jira brand has a lot of, it just didn't really line up to it. Yes, it used the colors that are in our brand guidelines, but not exactly to the level of satisfaction I wanted. But I think it's still a great start. And Copilot had a lot of suggestions that it provided, which I really enjoyed, and also had a great design plan. And then I went with Gemini. Gemini provided two options. So I asked it to generate both. This was the first one with the mapping, and then another one that's more specifically to my idea of what mapping UI would work on like a mobile. And from there, I asked it to kind of tweak the background so that it was a little bit more appropriate. And I was really pleased that it kept the original imagery pretty much the same, and did the specifics of changing the background. Next is Pomelio. So Pomelio works more on social media campaigns. So that's why there's a lot more text. The images didn't really come out as cohesive to a brand per se. So the nice thing about Pomelio is that you can go in and change all this text yourself, change the font, and also help it generate new taglines and things like that. And then ChatGPT. I had high hopes for ChatGPT and it kind of failed on me. I don't know, like if it just wasn't capturing the knowledge or what. It really came out with something really busy. Yes, it has mapping UI, but it's just not really on brand. I even provided an image with it and was like, reference this, please, in this style specifically. And it still came out quite dark, quite bubbly. So yeah, not the happiest about that. So yeah, I'll quickly run through the pros and cons. Copilot mentioned that it could provide an SVG file, which I was looking forward to because we can edit it later on. As I asked it, they said, yes, I'll do it for you, but wouldn't provide me with that link. So I'm not quite sure where that mix-up is. But could be better on Gemini is around having to be stuck in your create images setting. You can't really hop around from like a create image to like maybe a deep thinking if you want to go back and get the coded version or code base for the image. And it also doesn't do the best with sizing of images. But I do also enjoy that Gemini has a My Stuff tab, which historically keeps all your images that have been generated. That's really great for me to like reference back to. I think Pomelio is great if you're thinking about a campaign that you want for the business. So say we want to focus on something around like promoting our AI capabilities, and it's able to provide a bunch of social media images in different sizes right away. And there's also an animate function, which I think is great for social media. And as you can see, you can change out the header descriptions really easily. Yeah, it's just a little bit limited because it's not getting the precise brand quite yet. And then, yeah, ChatGPT, like I said, wasn't that impressed. And so, yeah, my top choice for now would be Gemini for all the things I listed. So these are just tips for any image generation tools. 100% add reference images. The more that the AI can get context from, the better the result will be. And then also be descriptive. If you have a clear vision of the visual that you want already, you're like, okay, I want all these elements, write that in, like write down the color codes, the exact placement of them, if you want a foreground or a background. For realistic images, you have to think about it like a camera. So think about aperture sizes, or like, this is the certain lighting angle is coming from this angle. I want it from top down. I find that adding the size later on really affects the AI. It just doesn't generate as well. So I would always prompt, if you want something for LinkedIn, say, okay, I want a 3x2 image for specific pixels, and always iterate and refine. AI is never going to get it right. It's just like a designer. You kind of have to prompt it continuously, and always download the generated image. That is the best quality you can get. I know sometimes people just copy and paste, but really do download it.